Don't listen. That's right. We're grateful. Yeah. I'm thinking of you like your dad. I don't understand. There's a person named Janine. I'm Janine. Yeah. So is this first? Yeah, it's first. Trying to get away from it. Yeah. Standing close. It's your first time too? Yes. Yes. They got you both? Yeah. Well, how did you know? I heard that from my parents. I actually, okay. Full disclosure, I was a therapist. I'm retired. And I would often, I didn't send people here because I didn't want my people necessarily here in my space, but I often told people they needed a community to be a part of, and the church is great. So far, too. Community. Yeah. We have struggled with that. Might have to have back, well, I'm hoping I can go on in church. That's why my leg doesn't work right now. So that's or misfire the nerve. I used to go to jazz fest. I gotta get this fixed so I can fix my back. This was made by and I need a lady, right? And this not yet. I was yeah. I asked you I work at an office. I sit down, right? I was doing it. Well, these are from my husband. I bought. That counts. Oh, I'm right. Yeah, okay. I can't get it. Like that. Down the road. Yeah, saw Dawn and I thought, oh, well, what is he doing here? He was giving me some yeah. Yes, we do.
She's running now.
Janine, the flibber jabber, looking around.
Yeah.
That may not be a new word.
I did that myself.
I think when the sisters walk around, we have to make them all feel welcome. Okay, Janine. Okay, Janine. Janine's at first. It's actually music's at first. My mother always said she would so I didn't bury her enough that I have and she has a favorite lighter, a mezuzah, a chalice, and a St. Christopher's medal. Because she knows and Janine is right on barely. It is tough.
I have a number of people out there, but I think I'll wait for 2 minutes.
No, it's okay. We got it covered. Thank you.
I have a new phone. My first iPhone. I have joined the cult, as my sister says. And someone else had to show me how to silence it. If you do not know how to silence your phone, please ask someone. You need this louder. This needs to be louder. David, can we turn this microphone up, or somebody? Well, there's some people that don't hear as well as you that are telling me they don't. Well, okay. Some people are talking. Oh my, that's nice and loud. I can hear that. Is that better, Kathy? Okay. So those that have a little trouble can now hear. All right. So, as I said, make sure you get your phone silenced. You don't want to be embarrassed by it ringing. Or maybe you do. I don't know. Okay. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other.
We shall be known by the company we keep as the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known as the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves back to the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep as the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known as the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that all thrive. It is time we lead ourselves back to the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead as love.
Are striving to reimburse artists and authors for their intellectual property. So we have received permission to use whatever we have, the longer pieces we are using today, and the music. And we are reimbursing them. Announcements this morning. I think Krista Conley has something about you could just use this microphone right here, Krista, about the plant sale.
Yeah, good morning. Just in time for Mother's Day, we're going to be having our annual plant sale fundraiser. We're just selling geraniums this year. We'll have potted and hanging 12-inch geraniums in red, salmon, bicolor, violet, and white. So please come out just in time for Mother's Day.
And this is next Saturday, right?
Yeah, next Saturday, May 7th from 10 to 4.
Yeah, and thank you. We thank you so much for taking that on as a project. Oh, okay. The cooks have an announcement?
Yeah, because it involves both of us.
They're going to sing?
So 27 years ago, May 6th, this Friday, Rob and I were married in this very space in Scanlon Hall.
Right here.
Yeah, and Becky was here. Yeah, you were married here too. Oh, thank you.
How many years?
26, 27.
And your germs are still here.
Yay. Okay, Lou will do our chalice lighting this morning. Oh, we have another. I'm sorry, I didn't ask if there were any more.
You have an announcement? Well, then you need to come up.
You need to flag me down.
You may have seen the email, but we are again in the top 5% of the U.S. from Equal Exchange for selling coffee, tea, and chocolate. And the thanks really goes to you guys because you
And we're not that big.
Okay.
Coffee, something, the hymn of coffee. Yeah, okay, that's enough. I don't remember the rest of the words.
Okay, I'd like to see some hands. How many people here have or have had a mother?
Or are a mother?
May I finish?
Oh.
It's like being married. Anyway, hi, Bobby. She's out there listening. Well, next Sunday is Mother's Day, and I hope you buy your plants on Saturday. But on Sunday, please come for our annual Mother's Day service, which I will be hosting, and there will be 4 other members of our congregation who will be talking about their experiences in motherhood, whether it has to do with themselves as mothers or their mothers. So, and I will be speaking about all of that. Thank you.
Anyone else have an announcement? Okay. Now the chalice lighting loop. I'll light it, Mother.
This is the prayer. Whoops. Wow. Sorry, I have to turn off my Prayer for Living Intention by Joseph M. Forgive ourselves and others. May we, as a people of faith, be granted the strength to be so bold, so brave, and so loving.
And as far as joys and sorrows, Terry Harmon's sister Carolyn died Friday morning in Eastern Texas. I'm sure he would appreciate getting any cards from you all. And if you need an address, Walt, do you have an address? So can you raise your hand? Yeah, Walt would have an address for that. And this morning, Lauren Christ is a part of our team and helps with developing these First Sunday programs. And she was going to be a part of this morning, but we got a text from her that her mother is at Stormont Vale through the emergency room, and it doesn't look very good. So we all are holding her in our hearts as well. And now we will take the offering. Does somebody have the baskets? There we go. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. Thank you for all the gifts that you bring to UUFT. In our surveys and discussions over the last month since starting this series on race, there have been comments and questions about how to talk with persons of color without being offensive or feeling awkward when doing so. Fear of saying the wrong thing, our advice, fear is holding us back if we want to grow. May we all, as Joseph Cherry said, be bold enough to step into our discomfort and brave enough to be clumsy there. Our expectations of ourselves, our fears, can get in our way. Most of us like to think of ourselves as smart, educated, socially aware, kind, compassionate. And we hate to feel or be shown to be ignorant, foolish, hurtful, thoughtless, even a little bit racist. So much so that, oh, I didn't mean that, or you misunderstood, or some other defensive comment are the first thing out of our mouths. Then the next are often to mansplain, white-splain, or to splain ourselves. We draw the focus to ourselves and the defense of our innocence. We're one of the good guys. We voted for Obama. We marched in the 60s, if we were old enough. Some of our friends are. Some of our family members are. So, what is a well-meaning white liberal UU to do? First of all, get over ourselves. We do not know it all about anything, but especially about being anything outside our own experience. And we need to learn. Then learn more if we are to be the kind of individuals, the kind of friends, the kind of community, the allies that we aspire to be. We must become comfortable with discomfort, with tension, with being wrong, with being the cause of someone else's pain. Only then will we hear what we need to hear, see what we need to see, learn what we need to learn to be a good ally, a good person. To be a good ally, we must start the personal work, knowing it will take a lifetime. Allyship can start with recognizing microaggressions. Once you start looking for them, you will see more.
What are microaggressions? A microaggression can happen when we look at somebody who is of a different race, from a different country, follows a different religion, etc. And all we see is the difference.
One way to avoid microaggressions may be to look for the things we share. Even something as banal as the weather, sure is hot today, can be a way of saying, hello, fellow human, you and I are in the same boat. When I was in my early 20s, I was an exchange student in Scotland for one academic year. It was an exciting time. A wonderful year. I benefited from the kindness of many people, but I was far from home, and I was often othered. One young woman looked at my bright orange purse and asked, "Is it American?" One young man I dated briefly said to me repeatedly, "You're an American, scintillate." That fellow never saw me at all. All he saw was an American who wasn't behaving as he believed Americans are supposed to behave. One morning, I was standing at a bus stop. This matronly housewife, who was also waiting for the bus, looked at me and said something in a friendly, conversational way about the weather. I don't know if she recognized that I was a foreigner, but she probably did. I don't know if she recognized that I was a bit lonely, but she probably did. Her kind way of reaching out without pegging my differences made me feel so seen, so included, that I still remember it 60 years later.
We're going to read a list of common microaggressions, and the source is the Foz Collective, which is based in the Meadville Lombard UU Theological School in Chicago. Janine will read, I will give us a general theme of each set of remarks, and Janine will then read examples of the microaggressions, and Lou will read a description of the way it might come across to a person of color. Lists like this can add to the feeling of needing to be very careful of what we say, of walking on eggs. Try not to take this as a bunch of prohibitions and rules that you might not say, that you cannot say any of these things. Try instead to hear each of these remarks as a person of color might hear them. The point really is to understand and to try and replace our immediate, "that is not what I meant" reaction with, "I hear you." "Ooh, I hear me now differently too. I see what you mean." This is good advice for any human relationship, by the way. If we can give up the defensiveness and try to genuinely hear and understand the other person, it can really move a relationship forward. First theme, alien in our own land. When Asian Americans and Latin Americans, Latino Americans are assumed to be foreign born.
Where are you from? Where were you born? You speak good English. Could you teach me some words in your language?
And the message is, you are not American. You are a foreigner.
Next theme, about intelligence. Assigning intelligence to a person of color on the basis of their race.
You are a credit to your race. You are so articulate. And to an Asian person, could you help me with this math or science problem?
And the messages are, people of color are generally not as intelligent as whites. It is unusual for someone of your race to be intelligent. Or, all Asians are intelligent and good in math and sciences.
Next theme, colored blindness. Statements that indicate that a white person does not want to acknowledge race.
When I look at you, I don't see color. America is a melting pot. There is only one race, the human race.
The message may be denying a person of color's racial and ethnic experience. You must assimilate or acculturate to the dominant culture, or denying the individual as a racial or cultural being.
Next theme, criminality, assumption of criminal status. A person of color is presumed to be dangerous, criminal, or deviant on the basis of their race.
A white man or woman clutching their purse or checking their wallet as a black or Latino approaches or passes. A store owner following a customer of color around the store. A white person waits to ride the next elevator when a person of color is on it.
And the message, you are a criminal. You are going to steal. You are poor. You do not belong. You are dangerous.
Next theme, denial of individual racism. A statement made when whites deny their racial biases.
I'm not a racist. I have several black friends. As a woman, I know what you go through as a racial minority.
The message, I am immune to racism because I have friends of color. Your racial oppression is no different than my gender oppression. I can't be a racist. I'm like you.
Next theme, myth of meritocracy. Statements which assert that race does not play a role in life successes.
I believe the most qualified person should get the job. Everyone can succeed in this society if they work hard enough. My grandparents were poor and worked their way out of it. It's no different.
And the message, people of color are given extra unfair benefits because of their race. People of color are lazy and or incompetent and need to work harder.
Next theme, pathologizing cultural values or communication styles. The notion that the values and communication styles of the dominant white culture are ideal.
Asking a black person, or just thinking, why do you have to be so loud, animated? Just calm down. To an Asian or Latino person, why are you so quiet? We want to know what you think. Be more verbal. Speak up more. Dismissing an individual who brings up race or culture in a work or school setting or church.
The message, assimilate to dominant culture. Leave your cultural baggage outside.
Next theme, second-class citizen. Occurs when a white person is given preferential treatment as a consumer over a person of color.
A person of color is mistaken for a service worker. Have a taxi cab pass a person of color and pick up a white passenger. Being ignored at a store counter as attention is given to the white customer behind you.
And the messages are people of color are servants to whites. They couldn't possibly occupy high status positions. You are likely to cause trouble and or travel to a dangerous neighborhood. Whites are more valued customers than people of color. You don't belong. You are a lesser being.
The final theme, how to offend without really trying.
Indian giver. That's so gay. She welched on a bet. I jewed him down. That's so white of you. You people, we got gypped. He'd complain if he were being hung with a new rope. Imitating accents or dialects, and of course, many, many others.
Those of us, sorry, I have my hearing equipment turned on. I can't hear I'm hearing myself twice, I think. Anyway, those of us who have been attending UUFT for a few years may recall a time only 2 or 3 years ago when some of the persons of color who were then members began complaining openly about microaggressions. Many of us responded defensively. I know I did. I have begun reprocessing those complaints in my own mind and hearing a better way I could have responded. There was a general complaint posted on Facebook of being treated condescendingly. At the time, what was going through my mind was, who are they talking about? What was said to them? Could it be me? I reacted to my own anxiety rather than hearing clearly what the person who complained was saying. I responded on Facebook, I hope you will let me know if I say something that offends you, which dumps responsibility right back in the lap of the offended person. I could have said, I'm so sorry to hear that you are having that experience here, and I apologize if I made you feel that way, which signals that I accept the complaint. That might not be a perfect response, but I think it would have been a better one. Then there was the low-hanging fruit episode, which occurred at a meeting many of us attended. A person of color asked the speaker to stop using the term low-hanging fruit, which she related to lynching. My reaction was similar to that of other white folks I talked to. We thought, she must be confusing it with the Billie Holiday song, Strange Fruit. She is blaming people for not anticipating her personal reaction to a different term. And by the way, I skipped something here. The person I'm referencing has given us permission to talk about this here. Okay, back to what we thought. Only much later did I realize that the facts, as we, meaning white folks, saw them, are not the important thing in this instance. What is important is that the use of the term was making her uncomfortable, and she trusted us enough to tell us that. And most of us didn't really listen. We didn't deal with her trust with the respect it deserved. With a sympathetic ear, it is not hard to see how the term low-hanging fruit could trigger unpleasant associations to lynching. But we did not believe her.
A UUFT member of color was repeatedly asked if visitors of color were friends of hers. I hope by now you might hear the microaggression in this. A member of color who held a board position felt pressured to attend every UUFT event, being told as much for a particular regular social activity. I am sure the offenders thought they were being nice by emphasizing how important her attendance was to them. But I was told by this person, I can only take so much time in white space. Unless you think these were minor or even infrequent experiences, I must mention an experience when 3 members of color unloaded on me for 2 hours. It started with a microaggression I was accused of, very angrily accused of by one. But it quickly evolved into unloading of many painful experiences each of them had had at UUFT. The intensity of this conversation has left an indelible mark on my heart and fuels my commitment that we here at UUFT, we will do better. If our first reaction to any of the above is, well, why didn't they say something to the offending persons? Then we still don't get it. The more important question is, why didn't they feel safe to say something to the offending person? Being an ally means many things. It starts with reflecting on your own identity and on society's dominant identities. The next step is recognizing others' identities and the way those identities are privileged or marginalized in our society. Allies are willing to see these differences, to make an effort to promote equity, eliminating otherness, even while acknowledging difference. Allies do not speak for or over the communities they support. They stand with them. It's hard. It takes practice, but it makes for genuine community.
Allyship, what it isn't. This is an article by Holly Phillips, published on medium.com, June 19th, 2020. It's entitled, Outrage Isn't Allyship. Common Traps in the Quest for Racial Justice and What to Do Instead. This great awakening we are in is no doubt a great thing, as the realities of systemic racism take center stage and white people join the fight against racial justice. I am filled with hope for the new world that we are creating. But in the midst of it all, I'm seeing actions performed in the name of allyship that are at best unhelpful and at worst actively harmful to the very people they are meant to support. Here are the 5 most common traps I see and some suggestions for what you can do instead. It's important for me to say that if you discover that you've been doing any of these things, I'm not discrediting your good intentions. Many of these actions stem from the very natural reaction you might be having to the fact that we live in a very deeply racist world. This guide isn't meant to make you feel guilty. Instead, see it as a way to check yourself and learn how to do better.
Number 1, expressing shock is not allyship.
To hear people respond to stories of racism by saying things like, oh, I can't believe this is still happening in 2020. Or I'm just so shocked that someone would do this, is greatly frustrating to those who live with racism every day. It's not that you shouldn't feel outraged by the gross injustices perpetrated against BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color. Of course you should. But being shocked by the existence of racism is a manifestation of your own privilege, a clear display of how little you've been paying attention to our 400-year struggle. All it shows is that you exist in a state where you don't need to think about racism because it doesn't affect you.
Plus, having to process your shock with you is an additional emotional burden that most BIPOCs simply don't have the time, energy, and capacity for. Try this instead. Process your shock privately or with other white people. Educate yourself on the history of racism. Read about the slave trade, colonization, segregation, and eugenics. Instead of being shocked, be informed.
Number 2, a social media status is not allyship.
I absolutely understand the urge to speak against racism on social media, especially when people remind you that to be silent is to be complicit. I feel it too. And raising awareness has a valid place in the fight for a more racially just world. But the problem with this kind of allyship is that it's too easy. As I've written before, a hashtag or a black square or a repost is an action. It doesn't require any of the commitment, action, or sacrifice that is necessary to dismantle the systems of racism in the real world. And it can very easily slip into performance. You simply profess solidarity in return for the virtual pat on the back you get from looking like a good person who's down for the cause. Try this instead. Post and then act. Every time you share a post in solidarity with Black, Indigenous, people of color on social media, challenge yourself to an act of allyship that no one will ever see. Use your platform to amplify the voices of people doing the really tough work on the ground.
Number 3, feeling guilty is not allyship.
Many white people are feeling overwhelmed with guilt and shame for being ignorant of or indifferent to, and therefore complicit in, the injustices of racism. This is understandable, and that feeling may even become a mechanism that spurs action. But guilt is not allyship. Guilt in itself keeps you stuck and focused on yourself, when what we need now are strong and stable allies capable of carrying your burden, their share of the burden. Knowing is asking you to spend the rest of your life blaming yourself for what you didn't know or do. What we're asking is that you do something now. Try this instead. Actively take steps to process your guilt. Meditate, journal, process with other white people. Remind yourself that when we know better, we do better. Now that you know, do.
Number 4, shaming other white people is not allyship.
Unless you've spent your life actively advocating for racial justice, you are in no position to shame other white people for not doing enough. And even if you have, shaming rarely gets people to change their behavior in the long term. Tried that with kids, haven't we? Yeah. In fact, it often pushes people further away or makes them bury their views underground where we can neither see nor address them. Shaming is often a way of deflecting from the work you still have to do, a way of framing yourself as the good ally and others as bad. But allyship isn't something you are, it's something you do. It's a lifelong commitment to fighting for a racially just world. Try this instead. Absolutely call out people when you see racism, but avoid blanket statements or generic posts about what others aren't doing. Focus on yourself. Locate your own racism. If you can't find it, look harder.
Number 5, engaging in futile debates is not allyship.
Engaging in civil discussion with people who have different views from your own? Excellent. Taking the time to calmly explain the way systemic racism permeates every facet of reality? Absolutely do it. But getting lost in a back and forth with those only seeking to discredit the very existence of racism, also known as the old all lives matter people, is likely a waste of your time. They aren't ready to see the truth yet, and that's okay. Change won't come from them, it will come from us. Try this instead. Explain your perspective to people who disagree. If they want to have an open mind discussion, then feel free to engage with them. If not, move on. Get back to work. There's much more to do as a true ally.
Okay, we have some people that will be helping us with this next part. And you can use this mic over here. This is a piece called 7 Personality Traits of My Favorite White Allies. The world is a far better place with them in it. It is written by a person who writes on racism, race. Her name is Rebecca Stevens Alder. I find her on medium.com. I would recommend reading her pieces to you. I recommend her highly. Some people don't believe that white allies exist. I personally believe that they do. As I have engaged more publicly around racism and anti-racism over the last year, I have come across some exceptional allies. Whether they operate in public or in the shadows, these allies display several of these 7 characteristics.
1, they educate themselves. They don't expect Black people to educate them about racism. On their own, they find the tools and publications to teach themselves. They absorb what they read and identify situations in their everyday lives where racism takes place. For example, my friend Brenda, I've changed her name to protect her privacy, spent months reading about white supremacy and white privilege. She openly tells me that she benefits from it, and so she takes steps to make sure that Black and brown people can use her white privilege too. The beauty here is that these allies take agency for their own education, because the reality is that expecting Black people to educate you about racism is selfish and unfair. Keep in mind that we are already victims of racism. Some of us go through it on a daily basis. We already suffer from the trauma. Asking us to educate you is a little like asking us to relieve the trauma, to relive the trauma all over again. Please save us from that additional suffering. Genuine allies get that and do the work themselves.
Number 2, allies know what racism is. True allies know that racism is a man-made construct. They know that it was created by one group of people to exert power over another group of people. They understand the economic, social, and political structures that racism serves to keep in place. This deep understanding of racism allows them to see how the system works to continue to oppress Black and brown people. They understand how systemic racism is the root of major inequities. They understand why, for example, in America, Black people are more than twice as likely as white people to have died of COVID-19.
3, they believe you. True allies do not question you when you have a racist experience. They don't try to gaslight you or justify why a racist behaved the way he or she did. They simply believe you and provide a shoulder to cry on and someone to talk to. In some cases, these allies even want to right a wrong or confront an institution that is racist.
Number 4, they share your voice. True allies understand that there is a power imbalance in society. They'll use word of mouth and their platforms to amplify your voice, and they do not expect anything in return. True allies jump at every opportunity to educate about how racism destroys lives. They also strongly advocate for anti-racism in their families and sometimes even in their workplace.
They don't engage in performative activism. True allies do not engage in fake activism. You don't see them putting up black squares or BLM hashtags on their social media and then removing them once the news cycle has changed. A true ally is someone that sticks with you for life, not someone who supports the cause on a temporary basis.
Number 6, they champion you. A true ally champions you. They might offer to mentor or support you. They'll also see your value and give you opportunities to develop and grow. True allies are not in it for personal branding reasons or publicity. They do it because it's the right thing to do. There is no ulterior motive. Some allies are overt in the way they show their support. Others are a lot more discreet. One thing they both share is zero tolerance for racism, and they work in their own way to diminish it.
Seven, a true ally is a change agent. They educate their family and friends about racism and anti-racism. They may not have a whole load of influence, but they use what small bit they may have to drive change. These will be people that organize an anti-racism protest, provide scholarships to students that live in low-income households, write about racism, or set up programs to welcome and engage with refugees. I always say you might not be able to change the entire world, but you can change a little piece of it for the better.
And then Rebecca says, I could go on. There are more traits to describe the white allies in my life. While I would add that white allies aren't a new phenomenon, what I will say is that today there are a lot more than in the past. They are as young as 13 and as old as 95. They are people that want a better world, a more just world, and they are doing their bit to get it there. If you aren't already a part of this movement, I hope that you'll seriously consider joining it. And now, what would you like to say? Please use this microphone over here, and you will be recorded on the streaming.
I've been giving this some thought. I can't change other people. So I have to think about what can I do to change myself. So I rerun things in my head. And I think I found a really good example of white privilege, that thing that I like to argue that I don't have. You do remember when they talked about having a registration of Muslims? We're going to register the Muslims in this country. And then there was this thing that ran around in Facebook, the Facebook. Register me first. I never thought about it until very recently, but it is I'm in a very privileged position that I did not hesitate to put that hashtag out there. Register me first. Because it's not a threat. I'm a fairly well-off white woman. Yeah, go ahead and register me. I can prove I'm not a Muslim. Guilt is an utter waste of your time. Figure out what you did. Think about how could I do it better and work on that. But quit sitting around going, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That's the old joke about what's the Jewish mother going to do. Sorry, Janine. Oh, no, don't worry about me. I'll just sit here in the dark. And one final thing. In conversation, if you're dancing with somebody, if you're sitting at the dinner table, and you do something, whether or not you recognize that you did it. If you step on somebody's foot while you're dancing, if you're chatting with somebody and they find a term you use offensive, if you're at the dinner table and you knock over the water glass, or it wasn't really you, it was the cat or the kid or whatever, your first words are not defensive. Your first words are, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I stepped on your foot. I'm sorry I used a phrase or a terminology or a joke that was really should not have used. I'm sorry I spilled water on you. Say I'm sorry. Say I'll try not to do it again. Tell them what you'll do to ameliorate the fact.
Hello, I'm Rob Cook. I have every reason to be a racist. It began with my father, who mentioned casually something about burying an Indian. His father, my grandfather, who made a remark about black people in his hometown. My stepfather, who brought home stories from work. And my mother, who believed that Indians were not good people. In the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, I went through a lot of cultural shock because I was a student at East Topeka Junior High School, and I would guess that it was approximately 33% black, about the same in Mexican and about the same in white. And so the people of color, especially the black, had seemed to want to show the white people that they weren't going to put up with anything. This was in 1964 and 65. And that they were the boss, not the white people. And they communicated this in many ways, fights, challenges, many different kinds. So I have choices to make. And it's difficult to put those items in my past, and I can't forget them. So it's a constant battle for me to let go and to do something that reflective in my men's group, to be the man that I want to be the person I want to be.
Just a short little thing. I'm Dennis Bosley. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters. And on April the 5th, a black woman showed up, sat around for a while, decided she wanted to join. She graduated from Topeka High School in 1972. So I'm asking, how can I enhance things, for starters? Because I don't believe we have any other black members. Maybe we do, but they don't show up at meetings.
I don't want to cut anybody off if there's someone that would like to say something else. Thanks, Nancy.
Nancy, you asked for some help, right?
I'm just starting with a question.
Asking.
I'd rather not put an answer out there. I'd rather just ask the question.
Ask the question. So I just didn't want it to go there in case somebody had something to.
Just
a rhetorical question. Okay, I won't try to solve the problems of the world right this moment, but I'm here if anybody needs.
I appreciate this so much.
Okay, thank you for your thoughtful responses. May we, as a people of faith, be granted the strength to be so bold, so brave, and so loving.
In the state of Alabama, during the early 60s and the mid 60s, there were several 100,000 of black people of voting age, but very few were registered to vote. As a matter of fact, in the heart of the Black Belt, in Selma, a small town in Alabama, that had only about 2.1% of the black people of voting age registered in 1965. Today in Selma, more than 70% of the blacks of voting age are registered to vote, and 5 members of a 10-member city council happen to be black. In Greene County, Alabama, during the early 60s, very few blacks were registered, but today that county is controlled by black. The highest elected official of the county is a young man, Thomas Gilmore, who is the sheriff.
Stand up and make good trouble. Speak up and make good trouble. Get up and make good trouble. Rise up and make good trouble. Stand up and make good trouble. Speak up and make good trouble. Get up and make good trouble. Rise up and make good trouble. Stand up and make good trouble. Speak up and make good trouble. Get up and make good trouble. Rise up and make good trouble. Never be afraid to make some noise. Make some noise. Never be afraid to make some noise. Make some noise.
This is the struggle of a lifetime.
Make some noise.
Makes good trouble. This is the struggle of a lifetime. Make good trouble. This is the struggle of a lifetime. And make good trouble. This is the struggle of a lifetime. And make good trouble.
So you tell us to wait. You tell us to be patient. We cannot wait. We cannot be patient. We want our freedom and we want it now.
Conversation.